Have you ever noticed that oftentimes the hardest part is not in choosing between right and wrong, but in choosing whether something that's in your life is actually a part of your divine, God given purpose or just merely a distraction, or as I like to call them, sweet substitutes? So, we're going to unpack that in today's episode. If you're new to the channel, my name is Thaddeus Ford. I'm an artist, a coach, and a heart attack survivor, and I teach people how to break chains and turn tragedies into triumphs in their life. In my experiences, and the experiences that I've witnessed in other people's lives, oftentimes the sweetest substitutes show up when we're at our weakest. It's almost like when we're hungry and we haven't eaten all day or in a very long time, it's like everywhere we look, there's a McDonald's. Everywhere we turn, there's a Taco Bell. And I don't think that that's happenstance. I think often when we're at our weakest, we often see the thing that will provide us the most immediate level of comfort. Choosing the thing that aligns with your purpose will always be the right choice. The difficulty is in the moment discerning between what feels right now versus what aligns with my God-given purpose. And we never want to consume a diet of splendor when natural sugar is readily available to us. So one of the best ways that I've found to circumvent consuming a diet of sweet substitutes is to stay full, to stay satiated on your purpose. And, you know, we've been using the food analogy, which I think is a great illustration, but it is hard to consume a diet of things of low quality when you're already full off of grandmama's cooking, right? And if we're talking about grandmama's cooking, if you remember, or if you're so lucky to still have your grandmother here for you, grandmama doesn't just throw things in a microwave. Oftentimes, grandma slaves over the stove. Grandma slaves over that oven. Grandma has a mixing bowl and she takes her time. And there's love and there's intention behind this meal that she's preparing for you. And I think that's a great illustration. God didn't just wake up one day and throw a few things together and say, here's your life. God thought about you before he thought about the foundations of the earth. So everything that he put inside of you, he put with intention. And just like grandma puts love in everything that she prepares for you, so did God. So this divine purpose that you have is not happenstance, right? And if you fill up every day and recognize your God-given identity, your God-given gifts, talents, and ultimate purpose in this world, if you're full on that daily, it is so hard to accept, to consume anything that's beneath that. So if you had a home-cooked meal at home and you're full, it's going to be a lot harder to get that Nancho's Bel Grande. So that's what we need to consider when we're trying to stay on this road, this path of purpose. So when we talk about best practices in order to make these kinds of shifts in our lives, what we're not talking about simply is sheer willpower. That only gets you so far. In my experiences, renewing your mind on a daily basis is the catalyst for creating lasting change in your life. You are not equipped with the ability to just use willpower every day, all day for the rest of your life, right? Your mind is one of the strongest assets that you have for creating lasting change. So when we talk about disciplining ourselves in order to resist the sweet substitute of the moment, we first must discuss what is our mindset. And oftentimes, for most of us, at some point in time or another, it's because of limiting beliefs. It's because of limiting beliefs that we have adhered to knowingly and unknowingly throughout the course of our lives. What does that mean in layman's terms? If you don't know that there's something better for you, or if you've resigned to the fact that this is all you deserve, then it is so hard for you to have the foresight to be in a position to receive something better. And so just piggybacking off of the idea that in order to make these lasting changes in our lives, we've got to renew our minds daily. But let's not gloss over that. Let's not just, come up with 5 steps, 5 to-do things in order to create change. And I think that that's important. I do. But I think most of us gloss over the fact that if our minds are not in the right place, if our belief systems are not in the right place, then we might see a little bit of change from a little bit of action, but inevitably we're going to return back to where our minds believe we belong. And so it's really, really important for us to break this chain, to untether ourselves from these limiting beliefs that tell us, that remind us on a daily basis that this is where you belong. This is what you deserve. Because really, the podcast can stop right there. If you can get to a place where you believe that better exists for you, not because you're just some special magical creature and no one else in the world exists like you. We're all fearfully and wonderfully made. And by God's love, grace, and his divine purposes, we all have something to do in this lifetime, in this world that's unique to us as individuals. And that's a beautiful thing. But if everything in your life, everything in your world, past and present, seek to remind you, or rather not remind you, or to make you forget that you were created on purpose, with a purpose, then it's going to be so hard for you to maintain this 5 steps to breaking the chain, 5 steps to resisting the sweet substitute. Because you will inevitably return back to the land from which you came if you don't continue to see a purpose for you moving forward. If you don't continue to see that there's something greater, better for you out there. The children of Israel, when they left Egypt and were in the desert, they were there for a certain amount of time before they started complaining and wondering if this was all worth it. Many of them started to murmur that they had it better in Egypt as slaves. So they left Egypt and they were free physically, but their minds were still trapped in slavery. So as you pursue this path of purpose in your life, it behooves you to do an assessment. Am I physically free? Yes, no, maybe so. But most important, is my mind free? And so that leads us into what are some things that we can do in order to make sure that our minds are free. And in my experiences, one of the greatest things that you can do is when you wake up in the morning, first and foremost, recognize the gift that is in and of itself. I had a heart attack in 2013. I know the value of every single breath. I know the value of being able to have a new experience with a loved one every single day, because I was on the brink of that being taken away from me. So every single morning that you wake up is a gift. And if you were given that gift, that means that there's something left for you to do on this earth right now, today. And what that thing is, what that to do for you is a part of your purpose. It's not random. It's not happenstance. It's literally essential to a breadcrumb trail that if you follow it and pick up the breadcrumb, you are on course to pursuing your divine purpose. So the first step in order to resist the sweet substitute is recognizing that you were given the greatest gift, and that is life. So now, with that gratitude, first and foremost, now we can have a shield, as it were, a shield against anything that may come to suggest to you that your life is worthless, that you being here today serves no purpose. Those are all lies. But how many of us wake up in the morning and before anything good can take place in our minds, our hearts, around us, what have you, we drown in a sea of worthlessness, of boredom, of fear, of anxiety? How many of us wake up and that's the first thing that we dance with, right? So the first step in breaking this cycle of mediocrity, of breaking this cycle of the love affair that we have with the sweet substitutes of our lives, the first step is in waking up with a heart full of gratitude. And I can sit here and give you bullet point after bullet point, list after list of to-do things, but I really think the core of what I'm trying to say is simply in that I think all good things stem from a heart full of gratitude. Most of my life, in my experience, that I submitted to the sweet substitutes of the moment came from me starting my day with this feeling of unworthiness. And just like we started this episode with discussing how when you're hungry, it's almost like you see every golden arch there is. When you start your day with a heart full of fear, worry, anxiety, unworthiness, less than, so forth and so on, then you set forth in motion. It's almost like you heighten your awareness and availability to all things not good. I don't know how better else to say that, so I won't try to. If your heart is full of a thing, fear, for example, then you're going to go through the course of your day, 24-hour period, being inundated with all things fear. If you begin your day with a heart full of anxiety, it's almost as if everything in this world, everything in this universe will conspire to reinforce the belief system that you have. If you're anxious, you're going to experience anxiety throughout the course of your day. Everything will speak to that for you. And then you'll be able to reinforce it. I was anxious when I woke up, and then the boss said this. Then after the boss said that, then the gas station attendant did this. And after the gas station attendant, so forth and so on. Everything you see and experience will reinforce what you believe. So if that's true, and it is, then what if we did the opposite? We don't need 5 steps to mastery. We don't need 12 steps to break the chain. What we need is a mindset shift. And if you begin your day with a heart full of gratitude, then you will experience that in the world. It does not mean that the world has changed. It just means that your perspective has changed. And whatever perspective you have places you in a position. And whatever position you're in shifts your paradigm. If I stand underneath a tree and look up, I have a perspective. If I climb that tree and look down, I have a perspective. Your position changes your paradigm. Your paradigm changes your perspective. Rather, your perspective changes your paradigm. So that's it in a nutshell. When we seek to diminish how available we are to sweet substitutes, we do that by changing our position, by changing our perspective, and changing our paradigms. So just like we've discussed in many other episodes, when you set an intention into this world, disruption always follows. So recognize that when you set off your day with a heart full of gratitude, the resistance will show up. The lies will come knock at your door. But if you continue to persist in your intention of having gratitude for this life that you've been given, for the blessings that you have already received and will continue to receive, then the resistance has to flee. And that's the part where most people get off track. When they set the intention and disruption follows and the resistance shows up, they assume that clearly this must not be the right course. Clearly, this must just be all, me and my wishful thinking. But that's the lie. That is the lie. That is the lie that you're being told to get you off of course. So again, here's the steps if you need steps. Wake up with a heart full of gratitude. Once you set that intention into the world, recognize that disruption in the form of resistance will always follow. When that resistance shows up, you show up even harder. You show up even harder. You continue to look for and find things in your life that you can be grateful for. This is war. And it is survival of the fittest. Everything in this world is conspiring to get you to throw in the towel. And if you endeavor to live a life that is in lockstep with your divine God-given purpose, then you are going to have to recognize that you have to put up a fight against the enemy within and without. So the takeaway is this. I want you to just be 1% better tomorrow than you were yesterday. That's it. Resist the urge to try and rebuild Rome in a day. Wake up tomorrow with as big of a heart, full of gratitude as you can possibly muster. And that's your win. Because what we're trying to do is stack wins. We're not trying to build a stadium in one day. We're trying to stack wins. That's all you need to do. Wake up tomorrow with the biggest heart full of gratitude that you can possibly muster and call that your W. So that's it in a nutshell. All of us face the temptation of sweet substitutes of the moment. But how do we resist that? And why do we resist that? We resist that because we know that there is a divine purpose for our lives. And the sweet substitute is here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to distract you, to get you off course. We've got to learn the difference between truth, which is our purpose, and distraction, which are the sweet substitutes of the moment. So I sincerely hope that this episode has blessed you, has challenged you, and most important, I hope that you take this information and be 1% better tomorrow than you were today. Don't try and rebuild Rome in a day. Just do the best you can. And if you want help along this journey, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me. Make sure you subscribe. Share this content with somebody who you think is ready to break the chain. And until the next episode, peace.